welcome to A Broad's Way Through Broadway. I'm your host, the Broad, Allison Chicorel, and today we're going to be discussing Beauty and the Beast. I am so excited. Here with me is Eric Welch, actor, director, singer. What else do you do? Wig master.
Literally everything.
Literally everything. A man of many trades. I get the most talented people as my co-hosts. I'm like the luckiest thing ever. So Eric is here with me to discuss Beauty and the Beast. Another big Disney fan. He has been in the show before at Sunset Playhouse in Elm Grove, Wisconsin. No one knows what Elm Grove, Wisconsin is unless you live in Wisconsin. It's near Milwaukee, just outside of Milwaukee. And you played Lumiere, right?
I did.
Yeah.
And that was
awesome.
Actually the second time I was in that show.
Who were you the first time?
I was a knife.
You were the knife. Oh my gosh. When was that?
Oh gosh, that was in 2008.
So how old were you?
I was a senior in high school.
Oh my gosh. So it was your school show?
No, I performed in that production at the Racine Theater Guild.
Awesome. I didn't know that. That's so fun. I saw Eric as Lumiere a number of years after he played a knife. and he was fantastic. I really enjoyed that production a lot overall. It's so funny though, Beauty and the Beast, people listing their theater credits when they've been in Beauty and the Beast, when they've been in the ensemble, and they never just put, like, I've noticed this on actor resumes for kids and adults. They list their theatrical resumes, and when they get to a Beauty and the Beast credit, it's never ensemble. It's always knife, spoon, plate.
You gotta list what enchanted object you were.
Yes, like even like on the International Broadway database, they list the Broadway credits. They're listed as townsperson / enchanted object, and that even sounds kind of ensemble. But I love that, like, in real life, people just, I was a plate,
I know, I
was a bowl, or I was a spoon. It's like, it's just so funny. Someone who like doesn't know theater, who picked up an actor resume and sees that credit, is probably like, wow.
Congratulations.
Like, why isn't this at the top of your credits list? But it's so fun because that means you get to be in the Beauty and the Be Our Guest number, which, you know, is actually really awesome. So
I mean, I consider that to be the best number in the whole show, personally.
Right? I mean, I think a lot would. So Beauty and the Beast, I normally would say, for those of you who don't know, well, it's Beauty and the Beast. If you don't know, turn off this podcast right now. Stop what you're doing and go watch Beauty and the Beast, for goodness sake. Music by Alan Menken, lyrics by Howard Ashman and Tim Rice, book by Linda Wolverton, obviously adapted by the Disney movie, 1991 animated film musical Beauty and the Beast. So all 8 songs from the movie appeared in the musical, plus some resurrected musical numbers that have been cut from the movie. And Alan Menken made up 6 new songs that were not in the movie at all, not made for the movie, and he put them in the stage version. The musical premiered on Broadway in April of 1994, so just a few years after the movie. Starred Susan Egan and Terrence Mann as Belle and the Beast. It had 5,461 performances for 13 years, 1994 to 2007, and it is the 10th longest-running production in history. I believe that's still true. I would have to check at the date of my Wikipedia page, but I believe that's still true.
I would guess. I don't know.
So obviously, I was looking up awards for the show. I put on my notes here, nominated for everything in 1994. It only won one Tony, and it was for costume design by Anne Holt Ward that year in 1994 for the costume design. Obviously, yeah, the costume design for Beauty and the Beast is a little bit nuts. So thank goodness it won costume design.
It deserved that.
Absolutely, because this is one of the most complex costume designs I've ever seen. And yeah, overall nominations. Yeah, it was nominated for everything. It was nominated for everything. So yeah, Menken and Ashman and Tim Rice put this show together, and gosh, yeah, we need to talk about those guys because they're the Disney guys, like Disney Renaissance period, right?
Oh yeah.
Alan Menken, Little Mermaid and Little Shop of Horrors, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, like a gazillion more. So Eric, now that we have all these basic facts for anyone again who doesn't know Beauty and the Beast, really, I hope there's no one. So how do you remember? Obviously, I'm sure I can't remember how old you are. Did the movie come out before you were born or after?
It came out the year I was born.
The year you were born. So I would say, like, how old were you when you saw the movie? Probably, like, what, 2?
Yeah, it was probably when I was around 2 years old. I don't specifically remember day that I first saw Beauty and the Beast.
So what's your first overall then memory of Beauty and the Beast? Either the movie or the stage version. What's your first memory that you can recall of the show?
I do remember watching the movie when I was young. It's crazy because I didn't actually own the movie, but I remember it being on TV, and you know how with the VCR you were able to record things on the TV?
Yeah.
So I remember recording it and then owning that recording from the TV. So I watched that a lot.
Okay. And so you obviously liked it. You watched it a lot, so it was a favorite.
Oh, yeah.
And do you remember when it became a musical? Like listening to this, like, did you listen to the Broadway soundtrack or anything, or just like the movie songs?
I did, because I remember going to the store to get the actual soundtrack, the movie soundtrack, and then seeing that there was a Broadway production and listening to that soundtrack a lot. And I actually preferred that version a lot better than the movie.
Okay. And there were more songs.
Right. Yeah.
Too. Like, there are only, I want to say there's like 6 or 8. No, there's 8 songs in the movie. Obviously double that in the musical version. Plus the one song that was cut, Human Again, which was one of Lumiere's songs. One of the Enchanted Objects number that was cut from the movie and ended up in the stage film, and also ended up, I believe, in the when they take the movies out of the Disney vaults for like DVD and like re-release them and put a bunch of like special features on there. I believe in that version they put Human Again with like the way it was supposed to be in the movie. They put that in.
Yeah, they did.
Because it was really well received in the stage musical. Like for test audiences and stuff, people raved over Human Again.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. So that's kind of fun. So I'm trying to remember. I not to date myself. I was born in 88, so I was a few years old when Beauty and the Beast first came out. I do actually have a vague memory of seeing this movie in the theaters. I don't know for sure, to be fair. I don't know if it's a real memory or if it's just, I can just picture it, and it's like, I know what it would have been like, so it could be a like manipulated fake memory.
Sure.
Or because I want to remember it, so it's possible that, you know, it's not a real memory, but because I have been 6 years old when the show came out, and only like 3 years old when the movie came out. But I mean, Little Mermaid was my jam. I was partial to Little Mermaid a little bit over Beauty and the Beast, just because I had a mermaid thing going on. But I remember as I got older, and obviously, you know, a big Disney nerd kid. As, you know, nerd kid. I still am a Disney freak. Belle was the first princess that looked like me. And I remember thinking, and this is going to sound so silly, but I remember thinking, a brunette princess, you know, with big brown eyes, like she looks like me. She likes to read. I hate reading. So here it's like, I was so mature. But I was so excited to have a Disney princess that looked like me, but I didn't like that her thing was like reading. And it's like, oh my gosh, where's your appreciation for her quirkiness, or the fact that being a little different than everyone in her town is wonderful, and you know, true love is seen within, like all the good messages that Beauty and the Beast provides. It's like, get it together, 7-year-old Allison. Jeez.
I think Disney was trying to send a good message to girls that reading is okay.
Yeah. And that reading is good. And that if there's some things that make you feel like an outsider in your school or in your community or anything, that's okay. And you're never alone. And, you know, there are always going to be people out there who appreciate all those little differences about you. It's a beautiful message.
Right.
But all 7-year-old Allison thought was, she likes to read. Why can't she look like me in, like, horseback riding?
I mean, she did have a horse, though.
She did. Yeah. Philippe.
Yes.
Is Philippe in this? Philippe's not in the stage version, is
No.
he? They didn't just drag a horse on stage and have Belle ride around. Okay. All right.
No, they cut the horse.
No. In my last episode, we were discussing Fantastics, and it was said in the original production of Fantastics, they wanted El Gallo to enter on horseback, as in they were going to have a horse on the stage. And I was like,
a real horse?
yes, like a real pooping horse. Like, I mean, it's one thing with like Sandy and Annie or Toto and Wizard of Oz that it's like that animal is totally going to pee or poop on stage, and it's like you want to bring a horse.
That just sounds like a bad idea.
Well, and especially considering Fantastics is literally the most simplistic to produce show ever. And it started out with, well, let's bring a horse on stage. Like,
yikes.
So then you think about Beauty and the Beast, and Beauty and the Beast does have a junior version that I have not done, even though I run it, as some of you listened, I have a children's theater in outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we'll do these things called junior musicals. And my favorite ones to do are the Disney ones, because I feel like junior musicals work well when the junior musical comes from a show that is already family friendly, like Disney musicals, as opposed to Guys and Dolls Jr. or Legally Blonde Jr.
It's crazy how many junior shows there are for kids to do.
And for shows that shouldn't have a junior, like, I mean, at least with like Little Mermaid Jr., Aladdin Jr., Beauty and the Beast Jr., all the junior version is a shorter version. They just cut a little bit of dialogue and cut some of the songs and make it shorter for the kids. And I feel like that works fine. But Drowsy Chaperone Jr. is the thing coming out, and it's like, what?
I don't get it.
I don't get it. I don't get it either. But my point was, I wouldn't be surprised if Philippe was a character in the junior version, where it's because it's another opportunity for a kid for a kid to play. I don't know that for sure. Like I said, we haven't done the Beauty and the Beast Junior yet, because when we do Beauty and the Beast, I want to do the full version.
I co-directed and choreographed Beauty and the Beast Junior, and Philippe is not.
He's not
that production either.
I will say that if he was, and we were doing that show at the box, I would probably just remove the character, because I have this thing about like adding characters just for the sake of adding an extra role for a kid. It's more like I'd rather them just be a plate or a knife. I
know. In the junior version though, they do have like 3 narrators.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I did see that. Sudbrink Academy to Beauty and the Beast Jr. I do recall it. Yeah, they had the narrators instead of one. And in the movie, the narrator, if I recall correctly, the narrator in the movie, it's Cogsworth, right? Like, it's the voice actor who plays Cogsworth.
Is it really?
Yeah, Google it. Yeah, it's the same. I forget his name, the movie Cogsworth, in his real voice. Or in maybe like a deeper, possibly manipulated voice. But yeah,
interesting.
It's so crazy. And I remember looking at, because that's my favorite part of the movie, is actually that narration.
The prologue?
I've used that narration actually for the prologue. Yeah, I've used it for monologues before.
Oh my gosh.
It does not, let me tell you, it does not have the same effect in my voice that I'm 32, but have the voice of a 10-year-old.
A Disney princess?
Yeah. It's like totally doesn't have the same effect, but it is so fun anyway.
Yeah, I do love that part in the movie.
Because it's just beautiful. It's just beautifully written. It's really really well written. So you were in the show twice, and so you have 3 relations. You were in it as a play, you were in it as Lumiere, and you also directed the junior version. Let me ask, how many kids were in that junior version? Because those junior shows can get big. I'm
gonna guess around 30 kids.
Okay, that's That's not as okay. I know a lot of the kids programs around here, the junior musical, it'll be close to like 70 or 80, and I'm just like, we never cast any more than 20 ever.
There's no way I wouldn't be able to handle that.
Nope. I mean, I even in our regular shows and our junior shows, either way, my capacity is 20. I don't cast more than 20 people like ever, just because space-wise, and also I like our smaller space. For those of you who haven't listened to a previous episode, the Box Theater is a 50-seat theater, very intimate. I don't like the kids needing to feel like they're lost in a crowd. And with a cast of 20, that typically leaves that my ensemble is never more than 10. And for kids, an ensemble of 10 is really amazing because they're used to being lost in a crowd of an ensemble of like 30 people, and and where you can kind of slack off or hide. And it's like, no, come be a plate or a knife in an ensemble, and you'll be one of the only like 5 or 6 knives and plates and spoons.
Right.
So casting, let's talk about this original cast, and maybe a teensy bit of the movie cast, obviously. So, Paige O'Hara in the movie. I don't know her from anything else. Do you? Paige O'Hara? I feel like
don't.
I feel like she might have had a Broadway credit or two. I'd have to look it up. I think she did. I know that Susan Egan, which is the stage Belle, she has some crossover. She's in Hercules, the movie Hercules, as Meg, and she has, in my opinion, her voice is nice. It's not mass produced. She doesn't sound like every other ingenue, which I really like. You hear the soundtrack of Beauty and the Beast stage version, and then you listen to the Hercules soundtrack, and you listen to Meg, and she's very distinctive. Like you catch, that's Belle from, like she's very recognizable. Yeah. Which I have appreciation for. Do you know from Susan Egan from anything else?
I really don't. I only know her as being Meg from Hercules and then Belle. Mm-hmm. But, it was crazy because listening to both soundtracks, going from one to the other, she must have that voice that just works for everything, because I didn't even think that it was a different person when I first listened to both soundtracks. Really?
Yeah, there definitely is a similarity. I think Susan Egan's voice is a little bit more distinctive than Paige O'Hara, but there definitely is a similarity, which probably is why she got the part. Because it's interesting. They said we're jumping in, and we're going to be jumping in and out of fun facts throughout this episode, as opposed to having a section on that, because there are so many fun facts about this show. And one of them I found was that when they were casting for the musical, which was just a few years after the film, I found that the Broadway producers, which was in this case was I forget his first name, something Katzenberg. He was the Disney film producer, and was obviously brought on for the stage version. The producers, when they're putting together a new musical, they're looking for big name performers in the musicals, obviously, for ticket prices and things like that. So they're looking for people who are like famous at the time so that they can bring in a crowd and things like that. So for the but this producer didn't want to do that. He really went against this practice of bringing in big names and wanted someone new, and they ended up going with Susan Egan, who was only 22 years old at the time. Over here at my 32 years old, going to 22-year-old with a Disney princess Broadway credit, like, okay, fine. And Susan Egan had not seen the movie when she got the part.
What?
I know. She had not seen the movie. She said when she was auditioning for Belle, she had not seen the movie, and she was also auditioning for other Broadway shows, including My Fair Lady and Carousel and Grease, that she was admittedly much more interested in.
That's insane.
I like My Fair Lady. Carousel's okay. Grease can go somewhere.
But if you haven't seen the movie,
it was probably just unfamiliar.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's weird to think. It's weird to think about though, because of you being like 1 year old and already watching the movie, and it's like
right,
one of the first movies I ever saw in the theater, and then it's like So so Susan Egan, the reason that she wasn't really gung ho about it, she said she didn't think it was. She said it was a terrible idea for Disney to put a cartoon on Broadway. And that's why she wasn't initially super gung-ho about the part. And she also felt that she wasn't attractive enough to play the character that's supposed to be, quote-unquote, the most beautiful girl in the village. And her agent was the one who convinced her otherwise and told her, Belle is supposed to be quirky. Like, she's beautiful, but she's kind of like New Girl, like what's her face on New Girl? She's quirky, she's gorgeous, but she's quirky.
Right.
And that affected the way she did her final audition, where they felt like she had a good mix of ingenue, but had the comic timing that Belle sometimes needs as well. And that's what got her the part. But all along she hadn't seen the film, and she did eventually watch it, and she enjoyed it. She said after she got the audition, or after she got the part, she celebrated by renting and watching the entire film, and she did not feel particularly pressured about the role, but was grateful to be surrounded by a supporting cast of veteran Broadway performers, like Terrence Mann.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that is just so
You still can't
insane.
wrap your head around it.
No, I can't. I would have thought that she would have been one of those people that thought, oh my gosh,
it's my dream.
This Disney show is coming to Broadway, and I could have the opportunity to play Belle.
Which is probably how all her followers, the people who played Belle after her, I'm sure that was their situation.
Right.
But yeah, the original, she was not familiar with it. She was looking at it as, it's a cartoon going on stage. I don't know.
She was unaware of Disney's magic.
Right? It's so funny. And then about Terrence Mann. Now he was Javert in Les Mis. And then he was also Thénardier later. I found out he was Thénardier years later in Les Mis. He rejoined a revival to be Thénardier then. But he went right from Javert to the Beast. Terrence Mann. Do you know, obviously like concerts and things like that. He has a lot of Broadway credits. Do you know him from anything else besides those?
I feel like I should, but I don't think I do. Oh, wait, he was in the revival of Pippin.
Yes, he was. He was the king, King Charles, Charles, and he was. I doubt you know the show. If you do, you're my new best friend. Barnum the musical.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're my new best friend. Congrats. Barnum is, you recently posted on Instagram, and I meant to comment, what's the most underrated musical? And I was very tired, and I was going to answer later because I was going to go on a tangent, but I was going to say Barnum is the world's most underappreciated musical.
Yeah.
But he was apparently in multiple roles. He was in the cast net in 1980.
Was he in the original cast?
I believe so. Yeah. I don't know if I can't remember what role he played. I'd have to look that up on excuse me, on IBDB. But yeah, he had a lot of credits on that show actually.
Wow.
Yeah. He was also Rum Tum Tugger in Cats. That I don't know if it was original or revival. I'm not sure.
That must have been. Well, he could have been a replacement, too. Yeah. But I don't think he was in the original cast.
No, he might have been a replacement from the original cast. And then other than those, the only other one I found for him is Tuck Everlasting. I'm admittedly not super familiar with that show. I know like 4 songs from it from hearing on XM Broadway radio, and a lot of my kids at the Box Theater sang that song Everlasting. They use that for like recitals and stuff a lot. Other than that, I'm not super familiar. I don't even know if I've heard the whole soundtrack all the way through.
I don't think I have either.
No, but he's in that. And he's a pretty prominent role in that. He was obviously the big name in the musical, in the stage version. When they were saying they're not really gung ho on getting a bunch of huge big names in the show, he was the one where it's like, okay, but let's have Terrence Mann play the Beast. Lumiere. Jerry Orbach. Now, he's in the movie.
Yeah.
And he's the one who actually got me into the musical Fantastics, because my dad would play the Fantastics soundtrack. And El Gallo, the narrator in Fantastics, is Lumiere from the movie. And obviously, being very, very young, I don't know names. I only know, that's Lumiere. And I remember listening to the Fantastic soundtrack, and I was like, it was kind of like, man, kind of like not super melodic. I was like, not super into it. And my dad said, listen to this voice. Who is that? And I was like, oh, it's Lumiere. Now I like it.
Yeah.
Like, he made me like the show. And then the stage version, it was
Gary Beach.
Gary Beach. What do you think of him compared to?
Yeah.
Do you have a
feel
preference?
like it's so hard because they are both so different.
Mm-hmm.
I love them both in the part, and it's also so hard because you're only seeing one of the actors' performances, and the other one you're just listening to the voice.
That's a very good point.
So I feel like if Jerry Orbach had the opportunity to play him on stage, I feel like I could have a better comparison of the two.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. I didn't think of it that way. So Beach, unlike Susan Egan, when he was auditioning, or actually he didn't even audition, he was actually approached by the producers for the role of Lumiere.
Wow.
And loved the idea, was super, super excited about it. He said he was particularly drawn to Jerry Orbach's rendition of Be Our Guest in his role Lumiere, thinking, now why can't I get a part like that? Like, that's what he thought all along. And then 2 years later, Beach received a call from the casting director inviting him to play Lumiere in the workshop version of the stage musical. But he was like on a really long contract of commitments with with an upcoming show starring Carol Burnett. I don't know if it was the Carol Burnett show or if it was something else, but he was involved in that and couldn't necessarily easily get out of it. So he had to keep turning down the workshop, and it was only because of the casting director's persistence of, come on, Beach, come on, Beach, come on, Beach, we really want you for this, that he eventually accepted. And because he was only famous for he was Happy Days and Murder, She Wrote. But he eventually accepted. But it had to take some work because he was involved in these other things. But he was, opposite of Susan Egan. He was actually like really into it. It was just a matter of, I'm just not available, but I really want to.
Right.
So I thought that was
Gosh, I can't imagine him not being in it.
I know, right? Isn't that crazy? Like, ugh. And then Terrence Mann, we already talked about. Anyone else from this show? Let me see here. You got Heath Lambert and I just saw something. Not Happy Days and Murder, She Wrote. That was Tom Bosley. Beach wasn't in that, but Beach was all that stuff about Lumiere. Sorry, I just wanted to. Oh, that was wrong. I switched in my notes too quickly here. Tom Bosley was on Happy Days and Murder, She Wrote. Beach was in the Carol Burnett show that I was talking about. Anywho, who else do we got here? Brian Press.
I feel like
Chip.
it was...
That's a kid.
Who?
Brian Press. Obviously a kid as Chip.
Yeah.
I looked him up and he hasn't done really anything other than he was a replacement for the kid in Les Mis. The one boy role. Gavroche, yeah. He was a replacement for Gavroche. Other than that, he has no other Broadway credits. So he might have been retired from the stage stuff after playing the little baby cup.
Yeah. That could take a lot out of you, playing porcelain.
Right? Especially as a little kid. That's tough. I mean, I wouldn't know.
Wasn't there a big name as Mrs. Potts?
Beth Fowler?
Yeah, she's done
She's
Disney
done a bunch.
voice work too.
Yeah. On Broadway, she was Mrs. Lovett and Mrs. Darling and Peter Pan and Arlene and Baby, and she was in The Boy from Oz. Those are her stage credits. What movie credits you got?
She was, I believe, she played a voice in Mulan, the Disney movie.
Oh, was she the grandma? And
I feel like she was the one that sings that first song.
Please bring honor to us.
Yeah.
Okay, then
she was the one that sang like, this is what you give me to work with.
Okay, yeah.
Well, honey, I don't know what that character
that
is,
wasn't
but
the
I'm pretty
grandma.
sure that's
that
her.
was the there's a name for it. The person who gets the girls ready for the thing. There's a name for her. Well, now it's going to bug me. We're probably going to have to Google that during our break because it's going to bug me now what that character, because there's a name. I think she has a name, but she has like a title of what her character's like job is, and I can't remember what it is. That song's great, though. Lastly, here we have Heath Lambert's Cogsworth. He was in Once Upon a Mattress in 1996 and 1997.
Oh, with SJP?
I think so, yeah. And he was King Sestimus, and that's all I have for him. I did not find a lot of other big credits for him. Tom Bosley, as I said, from Murder, She Wrote was Maurice, the dad. And then Stacy Logan was Babette. Now, Babette you might know this. Does Babette have a name in the movie? The Feather Duster. Does she have a name in the movie?
She does, but they don't ever say it. Her name in the movie is Fifi.
Oh. And that just must be like in the credits or something, but nobody don't speak her name though.
Right.
Interesting. I used to call her, so when she turns out of the Feather Duster and this is back to the movie real quick, on the stage, in the movie when she turns back into a human, I called her Evil Belle. Because she looks exactly like Belle, like they drew her and modeled her exactly like Belle, except that because she's a seductress and she's very kind of sexy, she looks a little bit naughty and evil, but she looks like Belle, so I called her the Duster. When she turns back into human, she's Evil Belle.
That is hilarious.
So Fifi in the movie and Babette, I wonder why they changed her name in the stage version.
Probably because Babette sounds more French.
More French? It does. It sounds more...
Than Fifi, which sounds like a dog's name.
That's so funny. Well, because Fifi, there is kind of a dog in the movie. The footrest. Turns into when it turns into a live thing. It basically there's a dog that turns into the footrest. And does that character have a name? I don't even know.
Probably
the dog,
but I don't know.
They just call it the dog, or another one that they don't ever say the name, but maybe in the credits it would have a name. Anyway, Stacy Logan as Babette. She didn't have a lot of Broadway credits that I recognized, but she was an understudy in Crazy for You. She was the Polly understudy in Crazy for You, where the original Polly was Jodie Benson. Ariel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So another very recognizable voice that when I listened to the Crazy for You soundtrack, again, same thing as Fantastics. My dad would play me the Crazy for You soundtrack, and I'd hear Ariel, and that made me like that musical, is because it's Ariel.
Right.
And so Babette was understudying her during some year. I didn't jot down the year, and I don't know offhand. Probably early 90s.
Yeah, I would guess.
Early 90s. So listen, I think we should, I think it's about time for a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about, some just fun trivia. I had a lot of fun trivia facts about this show. They're very interesting. And we'll talk a little bit about the tech stuff, because you were in this show and you were Lumiere. So that means you had to wear a Lumiere costume. And I want to talk about that.
Oh, good.
Maybe we can also talk about a fun little dream cast we put together for our own show that we're directing on Broadway in our minds. Our own little fairy
That sounds
tales.
great.
Awesome. We'll go and take a quick break. Sit tight, and we'll be right back in a few minutes after this word from our friends over at 6'5 Media. Thanks, Eric. We'll see you soon.
Hi there, I'm David.
And I'm Kate.
And we're the hosts of another Zelda podcast.
There are so many good podcasts out there, and some of them in particular concern the Legend of Zelda.
That's right, Kate, and we are another one of them. That is actually the name of our show, Another Zelda Podcast.
And in our show in particular, we talk about some of our favorite dungeons, characters, boss battles. We have top 10 lists.
Yeah, we do deep dives on game design and production aspects of the different Zelda games.
And we talk about our own experiences. We do some review episodes, talk about about our challenges, our struggles, and our victories.
That's right. Really just almost anything that has to do with Zelda, we like to talk about it. A new episode comes out every other Friday, and you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and YouTube.
And you can also check out our episodes on our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com.
That's right. All right, we will see you there.
Okay, bye.
1 heist. 6 plots for betrayal. When Raya Cautela cons 5 other thieves into helping her steal a magical artifact from the most powerful man in the world, she knows she's playing with fire. What she doesn't know is that the rest of her crew is just as underhanded as she is, and they all have plans of their own. M.J. Kuhn's Among Thieves, a fantasy heist novel full of twists, turns, and betrayal, available beginning September 7th wherever books are sold. Visit mjkuhn.com for more details.
Hey, this is TC.
And this is Jim from the Studio Demands It podcast,
Where every episode we take a demand from a hypothetical studio,
which could be you,
and challenge ourselves to conceptualize, pitch, and craft a film based on the stipulations
or the demands
we are given. We talk about movies all the time. Particularly, we complain about the choices made in the films we've seen.
We're nerds like that.
And, of course, like any good nerd does, we automatically assume that we could do better.
Even with the demands and restrictions that clearly must have been put on by a production.
So head on over to studiodemandsit.com and listen to our previous library of episodes. Our library of previous episodes. Our precious library, Jim. Our library of precious episodes.
You're a pirate, Smeagol.
Okay, so head on over to studiodemandsit.com to listen to our library of episodes.
And submit your demand for a future episode, too.
So go do that.
Okay, bye.
Okay, end of ad.
We're back. I hope you enjoyed intermission. Welcome back to A Broadway through Broadway. I'm here with Eric Welch, and we're talking about Beauty and the Beast. So we were recently just talking about Beth Fowler, who played Mrs. Potts in Beauty and the Beast on stage, and we had our little bit of a brain fart of trying to figure out who she was in Mulan. She was a character in Mulan, and we figured out what song she sings in Mulan in the very beginning, but we could not figure out what the character's name was. So we had to take a break and go Google that real quick. And we found out her character's name is the Bather. She's the one at the very beginning of Mulan who says, "This is what you give me to work with. Well, honey, I've seen worse." And she throws Mulan in the bath and gets her ready for the thing, the Please Bring Honor to Us song. So we learned that. That was a fun thing. That was a fun thing we learned. And I think this would be a good time to talk about your Dreamcast, Eric. So this is our part where we play a fun game. We are on Broadway directing a show. We have all the Broadway actors that ever were as a possibility in our cast. We do have the ability to hit the time travel button. So actors who are a little bit too mature or a little bit too dead for the role, are still eligible to be in the cast. So Eric, who is in your cast of Beauty and the Beast?
Okay, so I think that for Belle, I would cast Laura Osnes.
Yes!
Because
is a typical ingenue?
Yes, she has a beautiful voice, and she's beautiful, and I think she'd be really great as Belle.
Yeah.
As the Beast, he's a little old now, but I would still cast him because his voice is everything. Norm Lewis.
Yes. Oh my! Wait, has he not played the Beast before?
I don't know.
I don't think
he might have.
If he has, you can still use him. I'm just saying, if he hasn't, he needs to. Norm Lewis, if you're listening, drop what you're doing. Go start a revival. You need to be in Beauty and the Beast.
You know that there is a revival coming.
Is there? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That's so fun. Wow. Oh, you should audition.
I know. I should.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Wow. Yeah. Do you have anyone else?
Yes. I would cast Gavin Lee as Lumiere.
Okay. Some of his credits.
He played Bert in Mary Poppins.
Oh, okay.
And he was also Squidward in the SpongeBob musical.
Oh, okay. That's smart. So, okay, that's interesting. So Bert and Mary Poppins, and and Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast. I kind of feel like there are some roles in shows that if you've played one character, you could also do a really good job at this character. Like anyone who's ever played this character should come to auditions for this other character. And I feel like Bert and Lumiere are kind of like that.
Well, they're kind of like the song and dance man in both shows.
Yeah. It's sort of like what you have, if you do a good job at this role, you're just naturally going to take well to this one. I feel like any actor who plays Jafar could also be a Scar in Lion King. That sort of thing. Or like Laura Osnes, for example, who you picked for your Belle. Honestly, I feel like any Disney stage adaptation, she could do it. Like she just kind of has one of those Disney princess, very very mixy kind of that. I call it a princess belt when a singer has a really really strong mix that it sounds like they're belting, but it's brighter. It's a brighter, pretty tone, even though it's belting, or it sounds like a belt. I call it a princess belt.
Right.
And Laura Osnes has that, for days. I feel like she's appropriate for she could do any Disney princess.
She could.
Who else? You got anyone else, or were those your?
Yes. I think my last casting would be to have for Mrs. Potts. I would have Bernadette Peters.
Oh my god, that's brilliant. I mean, not that Bernadette Peters doing anything is not brilliant, but yes.
I just want to hear her sing Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
That's all.
Totally. Oh my gosh. I wonder if she has. When we're done with this, I'm going to YouTube. I hope she has.
I don't think she has, but
I feel like maybe you would have
proved me wrong.
You would have stumbled upon it by now.
Right.
Like it would have been shared by now.
Right.
All right. So, Bernadette Peters, if you're listening, please stop what you're doing and record Beauty and the Beast.
We need it now.
We need it for our lives. So it's funny. I actually didn't do a dream cast for this one because I'm insane and just, I don't know, I forgot. But it's fun fact, the live action movie Beauty and the Beast, which we haven't talked about yet, I did once have in my head that I want to hear Audra McDonald as the wardrobe, which ended up happening,
Sure did.
And I was like, so when I saw the cast for the movie, I was like, what? Who stole my idea? Now, granted, as Laura Benanti has said, Sopranos are getting belted off the face of the planet. There's not a whole ton of them left in the Broadway world. So it's like when you think of someone who needs that kind of operatic soprano sound, it's not like you have a gajillion options like you do for these mezzo belters or ingenues or things like that. So it's like, not like there were so many. So I kind of have my go-to sopranos for any sort of high soprano part. And it was Audra McDonald in that movie. At one point, at the end, she even sings with a dog on her lap. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's Audra McDonald and she's singing and there's a dog. My heart is so happy. Overall, I thought the movie was it was okay. I don't think it was as bad as people were saying, but I also don't think it was fantastic. But I will say it was worth it because at the end, Audra McDonald sings while holding a dog.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was worth the ticket price.
I feel like that made up for anything else that I didn't really care for about it. So, so production aspects. Now, you as we said, you played Lumiere. Can we please talk about costuming and the fact that you've experienced being a character who has to wear these crazy costumes? Belle and Maurice and Gaston aside, the Beast and the Enchanted Objects, these costumes are nuts. What was your costume like? What was it kind of made out of? Was it heavy? Was it uncomfortable?
So, I mean, the main portion of my costume was kind of just regular clothing. Mm-hmm. I would say the only things that were unusual was that I didn't have hands and I had a giant candle on top of my head.
Like you do.
So during rehearsals for Beauty and the Beast, they had rented my candle hands, I'll just call them that, my candle hands, and when I rehearsed with them, they were ungodly heavy. like to the point where I thought there's no way I can do this choreography with these giant candle hands.
Yeah.
They had motors in them to like let the flames like blow.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to take matters into my own hands. And I actually
Pun intended.
Yeah. I actually made my own candle hands
Wow.
that were so much lighter and they lit up, and then they matched because I also did my own wig also.
Yes.
Which was a wig going into this giant candle. And so then they all matched, and it just made me happy because they were so much lighter.
Right. Wow. Okay. So that's what I was mostly asking about. Like, because when I watch the show and I see, and obviously there's in community theater and in regional theater, semi-professional theater, all the different kinds, school theaters, all the different kinds. Obviously, you're working with huge budgets and smaller budgets and things like that. Like, I can honestly admit that if we ever do this show, I'm going to simplify the costumes, just because of our space. And I'm thinking of like, gosh, if I have like Lumiere, Cogsworth, Mrs. Potts, and Chip on stage, it's like my little stage is like, that's going to take up right there. That's going to take up like so much of my stage. I'm going to have no choice but to like simplify everything and just make everything kind of a little bit more suggested rather than so literal, because that's the thing about these Beauty and the Beast costumes is they are so literal.
Absolutely.
Like,
and it's because people are expecting to see the animated movie on stage,
100%.
and you just can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But so there is a production on the Disney Cruises that's based on the live action movie as well as the animated movie, and I think they take some of the Broadway into it as well. But the enchanted objects are all done with these beautiful puppets.
Oh, puppets! That's usually a solution to everything.
Right? And they're like actual size then to like what they should be. And I think it is just so genius to have these puppets.
100%.
I don't know why. So you can steal that idea for when you do Beauty and the Beast.
I just might, because it's come up a number of times when because we are a lower budget and just a smaller space, so we do have these challenges that come up sometimes when we're trying to do a big show and produce it in a way that works for our space without affecting the overall quality of the show. That's always that's my favorite challenge to do at my little theater, because it's like, we're small but mighty. Like, we pick the big shows because they sell well and they're well known and they're super fun, but we have to do little tweaks and twists and use a lot of creativity to make these shows work in a smaller space, like I said, without affecting the quality. And that's the biggest thing, is to do it in a smaller budget way where the quality of the show is still there. And it has come up, gosh, I can't think offhand what show it was, but there was one show that I was discussing once, trying to figure out how could I do this show, and the answer was puppets. And I can't remember what show it was, but it honestly was, how would we ever do this show? It's like, oh, well, we just use puppets. We just make puppets for the show.
Puppets are always the answer.
Yeah, because it's like, it literally gives you kind of like the same product, but at like a much simpler, and it works for the smaller, like I said, the smaller, more intimate black boxy theaters. Right. It totally works. So yeah, the reason I was asking, like, Sunset Playhouse is it's a medium-sized venue. It's a great sized venue. I adore Sunset Playhouse, but I was, and I do remember seeing like, like the wardrobe and things like that, or maybe Mrs. Potts, where it was like, here's this doorway that I now have to walk through with this costume on. And that's really difficult. And I have to figure out this whole new way to enter. Like, and it's like, we've been rehearsing all along. Like, you make your entrance. Okay, go ahead, make your entrance. And now you have this costume on. It's like, I have to relearn how to enter.
I know. Well, and see, I didn't have it as bad as some of the others, but I remember the first time all of our costumes being on and we get onto the set, and it was like they didn't think about the fact that we were going to be two or three times our size. Right.
Yes. And wider. That's because you were not, because Lumiere isn't necessarily wide. But the others are.
I had like another foot on top of my head.
Gosh.
So walking through a doorway, I always had to duck and get through it. But I was always so nervous, the fact that I didn't have hands and I was going up and down these stairs.
Yes.
And it finally happened in one performance where I tripped and I couldn't catch myself because I didn't have hands.
Oh, no. Did you get hurt?
No, I kind of landed on my knees and then got back up, but it was.
Did you play? Play it off? Did you like?
Oh, well, you have to. you have to play it off. But the audience, I remember there was a huge gasp of
Sure.
like,
Sure.
There goes Lumiere.
Oh my gosh! So that's funny. Like, you wonder about that the set designer and set builder, when they're making a set for this particular show, if they're communicating with the director and taking into consideration that doorways need to be wider and taller. And that's something that you don't necessarily think about in a lot of shows where your costume is like Belle's costume. It's a dress. I mean, not her yellow dress, her regular just blue and white dress, like it's a dress, and like normal clothes or something that you make a doorway the appropriate size for an average person or even a above average tall person, not someone who's wearing, it has an extra, 3 feet on his head because he's a candle.
Right.
and you wonder if these things are because you just don't really think of them necessarily. It's just a doorway. So that's funny that you mentioned, because I was curious about the weight. Because some of these costumes, you look at them and just go like, my gosh, not just awkwardly shaped, but how much do they weigh? And that actually brings me to one of, like I said before, we have a lot of really fun facts about this show. And one of them is Belle's dress. The original ball gown that Belle wears, not her blue and white, village dress, but her yellow one, her classic yellow golden dress that she wears during Beauty and the Beast, the Beauty and the Beast number. It weighed 30 pounds.
Oh, no, thank you.
30 pounds. And she has to dance in it. Like a ballroom dancing still, but I just think about, I think about that movement and how much that dress twirls and everything. And it's like, and these bells, they're small women.
Right. They're tiny.
They're small women. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like, that's almost like a third of their body weight. Like they're carrying on their pretty dress. And it's like, wow. And, so that kind of threw me. When I looked at that, it made me curious about wow, if her dress was 30 pounds, I'm just wondering about how much the enchanted objects, Mrs. Potts, and the wardrobe, and the candles, and the clock. I'm just like, gosh, how much did those weigh? Not just awkward to get through doorways, but how sweaty are you at the end of the show from basically weightlifting the entire production?
Right. In our production, Cogsworth's costume was actually made of wood.
It was made of wood?
Yes. So can you imagine how heavy that was?
Can I ask
it was basically
why? Why?
I don't know.
Why did they choose to make it out of wood?
Well, they rented it.
Okay.
They rented a lot of the costumes, and it looked amazing.
Oh, absolutely. I was in the audience for that show, and I will say the vision of that show, the visuals was great. The costumes were great. But because I'm a theater person and I'm a director and an actor and everything, I watch shows differently than for example, my mom, who loves theater. She loves going to see shows, but she's never been on the other side before. So she watches shows differently than I do, where it's I listen to the music differently. I hear things differently. I listen to the dialogue differently, and I look at things differently. My dad saw your production of Hello, Dolly, and he took me with him, and he got seats in the front row. And I remember during intermission, I said, you can stay here. I have to move backwards. It's because the last numbers in Act 1, the costumes were so gorgeous, and I wanted to see them, and in the front row at Sunset Playhouse, I couldn't see them. I could only see one at a time.
I know. But, I hate sitting in the front.
Yeah,
I hate it.
And because you want to watch the show, and especially in a show like Beauty and the Beast, where it's gosh, I feel like the costumes are half that show.
Right.
You want to see them, and I will say that the production, it looked great, but I do wonder about the costumes, and gosh, to know that it was who knows, it was made of wood. It was just, you wonder, like, were there other options of material to make this?
There had to have been.
I can't, because, like, yeah, that confuses me. So the Beast, while we're still on the subject of costuming, I found that when the Broadway show originally opened, and I don't know if that changed because they phrased it when the Broadway show originally opened, so maybe this has changed, but the Beast needed 3 people to help him into makeup, prosthetics, hair, and wardrobe. And originally this process took over 3 hours before each performance. To put the Beast together. Now, I'm focusing on the fact that it says when it originally opened, it originally. That makes me wonder if maybe after a few performances or a few months or something, maybe when the next Beast came in, that maybe they changed the costume a little bit to make it a little bit simpler. But I'm not sure. I'd have to look into the details of that.
Right. I would think that they would try and find an easier way to do that makeup and not have the actor come 3 hours before before the show opens to do that makeup. That just seems crazy.
Well, and I'm just thinking from an actor's standpoint, if I have a show where I'm a lead and a very specific personality of a character, I feel like the last thing I want to do right before I go on is sit for 3 hours while people just poke and prod at me to get me. Like, that just sounds like, not to be like whiny or anything, because these Broadway actors are like amazeballs. But I just can't. I'm thinking from an actor's standpoint, I was like, that would make me so sleepy.
I know. Oh gosh, especially putting on prosthetics.
Yes. So I'm curious to find out. I might do that when we're done here to find out if that changed. And I do remember. I actually do remember on XM radio, I was listening to an interview, I believe, between Seth Rudetsky and Terrence Mann, where he actually did talk about playing the Beast on Broadway. And I do remember something about him talking about the costume and how ridiculous the process was for getting ready and everything and what it changed to. I do actually remember. I might try to just track down that interview because now it's gonna be on my mind. Now I'm curious. But the I don't know. I thought that was crazy. But then again, when Broadway shows first start, it's all so much learning. Like, not even just in workshopping, but even once they reach Broadway, things are still changing. There's still songs that can be cut. There's still changes that can be, random understudies might go in and things like that. And that's why it's so funny when in community theater, when I work with, kids and adults, and there is a last minute change for some reason, and the kids handle it so well. They're just so go with the flow and covering for each other. And it's usually the adults who are like whiny and, this shouldn't be happening, blah, blah, blah. And this is so unprofessional. And it's like, you would never survive on Broadway, Mr. Professional or Mrs. Professional, because welcome to Broadway, where the day before you open on Broadway, there is a song cut or a line change, Or
there's a song added.
Or a song added. Like, much as a song cut, a song added. I mean, so I just think that's so funny, that, something like a costume, change or something like that. Like I said, those first number of performances during that time, there's changes that happen because they're learning, because it's a new show. It's not a revival. They don't have this, down a well-oiled machine or anything like that. So yeah, that's crazy. So let's talk about, because a couple of my other fun facts here, are kind of about the music. Do you, I feel like you already mentioned, is Be Our Guest, that's your favorite number?
It's between Be Our Guest and Human Again.
Okay.
I love both of those numbers so much.
Okay, yeah. And it's so interesting because I don't actually know offhand why Human Again didn't make it in the animated film.
I think because the movie was getting too long.
Is that what it was? That's what I would have guessed.
And I think they thought that kids would be getting anxious by that point in the movie.
Oh, okay. Because I forget where it actually happens in the movie. Is it in kind of like the second half, I think?
I think in the movie it's right after Something There.
Okay. That would make sense.
And then right before the ball scene.
Okay. Yeah. That would make sense to place it there, because I was just thinking we have information that tells us that the test audience and everything, that they loved Human Again, and they loved it getting put in the re-release of the film, and they loved it so much in the musical that it was sort of like, if this is such a well-liked song, I wonder why it was cut from the movie. So yeah, you're right. It must have been a length thing, that it was just getting too long. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So okay, and I've talked about this in a previous episode before. I have a thing for Act 2 openers, and I have a thing for whatever song the show is, like, take the lead, and the lead will typically have at least 2 big solos, and one of them is like what the show is known for, and one of them is kind of the underdog of the solo that the song is known for. And I have this thing where I always like the underdog number better. So my favorite, you're gonna think I'm nuts, but my favorite song in both the movie and the musical is Belle Reprise. I just love it. I love it. I've used it for auditions before. I just think it's a really nice, I love frustrated songs, and I feel her frustration in that song. So I have a thing for, like, frustration character songs.
Well, Howard Ashman was all about creating those musical numbers for your leading lady that was the, like, I want number.
Yes.
Like, what does she want? Mm-hmm. And obviously, like in The Little Mermaid, that was part of your world. Mm-hmm. And for Little Shop of Horrors, it was Somewhere That's Green. So this was kind of Belle's I want number. Mm-hmm. And it's super important for that character, because you then understand what she's going through and what she's wanting and why this movie is even happening.
Yeah. Thank you for justifying my favorite number.
Oh, you're welcome.
So, well, and I'm glad you brought up Howard Ashman, because we were running out of time in a little bit here, but I definitely want to talk about Alan Menken and Howard Ashman, because especially in regards to the movie, for those of you who don't know, Howard Ashman was ill and literally dying during 8 months of the final production of Beauty and the Beast. He died sadly during production, and he and Alan Menken were, like, business partners during like I said, the Renaissance period for Disney. They did Little Shop of Horrors together, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and they had started doing the songs for Aladdin. So Aladdin the musical it's all Alan Menken music, but the lyrics of Arabian Nights, Friend Like Me, and Prince Ali are written by Howard Ashman, and the rest of the lyrics of the songs in the Broadway musical and in the film are written by Tim Rice, who is responsible for Joseph, Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Jesus Christ Superstar, Evita, Lion King, Aida, and a bunch of others, but those are his big ones. So Alan Menken teams up with Tim Rice and Howard Ashman a lot, but I'm a fan of absolutely anything Alan Menken, Howard Ashman.
Yes.
Such a dynamic duo between Alan Menken's melodies. I mean, I've said this in other episodes before too, that that's the most catchy melody in the entire world. I'm just saying.
It is. Oh my gosh, they are geniuses.
They are absolute geniuses, and I'm a huge stickler for and this is why I sometimes have a problem with Stephen Sondheim. I love Stephen Sondheim, but sometimes I have a problem because I'm a stickler for a song should have a memorable melody. If I listen to a song and when it's over, I cannot hum any part of it back to you, that song is not melodic enough, and it should be more melodic. And I cannot think of any Alan Menken melody from any of his films, from any of his Broadway musicals. I cannot think of any melody that isn't instantly memorable. And I think that's miraculous. I can't think of any other composer who has that kind of a standard where it's like everything that comes out of his head is melodic and instantly memorable.
Yeah. Did you know that Alan Menken and Howard Ashman didn't even want to do Beauty and the Beast.
What? Why?
So they had just gotten done with The Little Mermaid, and they were already writing Aladdin.
Okay.
And they approached Disney saying, hey, we want to do Aladdin. Like, this is what our next project should be. And the company, Walt Disney Pictures, they were saying, well, we have Beauty and the Beast in the making right now, and it's struggling. We need you guys to do this. And they kept saying, no, we need to do Aladdin. This is what we want to do. And they said, well, if you do Beauty and the Beast, we'll do Aladdin.
That's like, oh my gosh, that kind of compromise. It's like arguments between a husband and wife who are like, arguing and they come to a compromise. That's what that reminds me. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I mean, but that's, oh my gosh, that's so good that happened though. Because like I said, like they had started Aladdin, and that's how Aladdin ended up being partial lyrics by Tim Rice and the partial lyrics by Howard Ashman, because things went they did Little Mermaid and then some of Aladdin and then all of Beauty and the Beast and then went back to Aladdin, where they could still thankfully, like, what if they hadn't started Aladdin before Beauty and the Beast? Then Aladdin, all the lyrics. I
don't think Aladdin would have even happened.
Who knows if it would have even happened? And if it had, it probably wouldn't have, or that would sound, I don't know if it wouldn't have Arabian Nights or Friend Like Me or Prince Ali, or if it would have, but the lyrics would be all different because they would have been Tim Rice's lyrics.
Right.
Which is just like, and not that Tim Rice isn't great. I love Tim Rice. But that would have been pretty different.
So different.
Yeah. So let me ask you, have you watched, and if you haven't, I recommend this. I'm sure you have. But for any of our listeners who haven't, the Beauty and the Beast DVD has special features, and there's a documentary on Alan Menken.
Yes.
You've watched it?
Oh, of course.
Have you watched it a billion times? I have.
Yes.
So
any documentary about Howard Ashman I'm watching.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So then you know about so Howard Ashman, he was at home or in the hospital during a lot of production of Beauty and the Beast when when Paige O'Hara was recording something there. And he was on the phone with Alan Menken directing Paige O'Hara on this song, and he was losing his voice at this time. He had no voice, and he was trying to communicate to Alan Menken. Alan Menken had to have everyone in the studio be totally, totally silent so he could hear what Howard Ashman was saying on the phone. And he said, tell Paige O'Hara Streisand. And she said, Streisand? What does that mean? Because she was doing new and a bit alarming. And it's like, oh, new and a bit alarming. And like really opening that up. And I was like, oh my God, that's like heart-wrenching that he's like trying to get these notes to the actors and he's not there. And he didn't survive to see it, right?
No, he didn't.
He didn't. I'm gonna cry. It's but the Alan Menken documentary, it talks a lot about their relationship, the shows they did together, putting together Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, and then Tim Rice coming in to take over during Aladdin and everything. It's a brilliant documentary. It is so fascinating. Whether you're an Alan Menken or Disney fan or not, I actually think if you have any, music appreciation or Disney, it's a really interesting documentary. I've watched it a handful of times, and it's fascinating. Especially the mind he has. I think they said he has this this chip in his head, Alan Menken, that just constantly is just spitting out all these like melodies where it's like, oh my gosh, they're so fun and beautiful.
That would be so nice to have that chip.
Right? Like, no kidding. Like, I tell you, I've tried being a composer like 50 times in my life. Every single time I spit out a melody, it's like, nope, that's Taylor Swift's song. No, try this. Nope, that's from My Fair Lady. Let's try this. Nope, that sounds like One Day More. Okay, I can't write music. Like, I can only reproduce melodies that are like one note different from a song that already exists.
But see, then you could do like spoof musicals.
Yeah. If I was better at impersonations, I could totally do spoof musicals. Absolutely. But yeah, that kind of chip where it just spits out different melodies. And the fact that when you listen to Little Mermaid and Little Shop of Horrors and Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin, you hear a little bit of kind of a theme. There's definitely a style. Princess and the Frog, too, I think also, right? I believe Princess and the Frog was Alan Menken.
I don't know about that. I know Tangled was.
Oh, it was Tangled. Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, I'll have to check. I thought he wrote Almost There from Princess and the Frog, but don't quote me on that. I'm like only 50% positive on that.
I'm not sure about that.
I'd have to check on that. But all of his music, there's definitely a stylistic similarity, but he doesn't repeat melodies. And that I think is just so crazy. Like I feel like a lot of other composers, Andrew Lloyd Webber and Stephen Sondheim and Stephen Schwartz, it's like there's things where it's like you can, or Ahrens and Rafferty too, with Seussical versus Ragtime. It's like, oh my gosh, you literally hear one musical in the other one because their music styling is so similar. Not in a bad way, not at all in a bad way.
Right.
But it's you definitely hear it, and I just can't believe how many different melodies that he has spat out, and that they're all instantly likable and memorable. So thanks, Alan Menken, for Beauty and the Beast and the Renaissance Disney period.
Yes.
It is wow. I mean, where would we be without these ones? So listen, I think we're just about out of time here, but Eric, is there anything else that you would like to share about Beauty and the Beast? Any other fun facts or anything about your personal experience, if there are other theaters doing the show, anything like that?
So Beauty and the Beast really means a lot to me because it is the show that I actually met my fiance in.
That's
yes.
He was
playing. Yeah, he was playing Gaston. So Tim Albrechtsen was Gaston, and me, Eric Welch, was Lumiere. And that was the first production that we met during. And
I forgot that. I thought in my timeline, I totally thought you guys knew each other well before that. I knew that you started seeing each other during the show, but I didn't know that you hadn't met previously.
We actually didn't start seeing each other during the show.
It was after that?
Yes, because he was dating somebody else at the time.
Oh, okay. So it's just where you met.
Yes, we met during that show.
And then, of course, there was a proposal in Disney World. Everyone's dream. If it's not your dream, you're wrong. Everyone should want to get engaged in Disney World.
I mean, it is the most magical place.
It is the most magical place. And how beautiful is that? Because you met during a Disney musical that you were doing together, and then to become engaged at Disney World. I mean, that's stunning. I love that.
It was perfect.
It was perfect. Oh my gosh. Well, listen, we're going to do some social stuff real quick. Eric, you just started a brand new theater company. Why don't you, can you share the Instagram or website, whatever you got, Facebook page, anything like that?
Yeah, so our Instagram is at Bombshell Theater, and then our website is bombshelltheater.org, and you can find out what we're doing on our website or on our Instagram, and so that's really exciting. I also have my hair, wig, makeup company, which is Characters, and that's KERICTERS. So at Characters on Instagram, and I also have a website, which is characters.com. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Jack of all trades. We got running a theater company, wig master, these awesome Broadway music videos that are super, super fun to watch. So Eric Welch, everyone check him out. For Broadway through Broadway, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you'd like more information on my theater, which is just outside of Milwaukee, the Box Theater Company, we're on Facebook and on Instagram. Check us out. That does it for today, Eric. Thank you again so much for joining me. This was super, super fun to get all Disney crazy with you.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. So that's a Broadway through Broadway. That's our final bow, blackout, and curtain.